Look, I spoke at a Soldier On function on Friday night in Sydney. They were all there, black ties from the Governor-General down, including the very impressive Defence Minister Peter Dutton. I dwelt on the Brereton report, and I don't apologise for that. The public are outraged at what this means to our vets and the demoralisation of our forces. Of course, you're aware of the Prime Minister talking before the report was released about brutal truths, and he apologised to the President of Afghanistan. The Foreign Minister apologised for our misconduct. The Head of Defence, Campbell, who should be sacked, said that Afghan families should be compensated, and he apologised for shameful findings. This was before the report was released. But of course, Campbell and the now Governor-General were both in charge of operations covered by the Brereton report. I was at pains on Friday night to remind the gathering, hundreds of people, as they listened in silence, of the Yamashita Standard, enshrined in the Geneva Convention, to which we're signatories. And that standard asserts, quote, the highest ranking officer is accountable for and should be prosecuted and convicted of the crimes of every officer and soldier under his command. Are you listening, Angus Campbell and Governor-General Hurley? The Yamashita Standard, the highest ranking officer, is accountable for and should be prosecuted and convicted of the crimes of every officer and soldier under his command. Well, let's go to Catherine McGregor, because this whole Afghanistan and Brereton issue has taken a turn. Commander Brad Curry was supposedly hand-picked to head the task force overseeing federal police investigations of these alleged war crimes in Afghanistan. Appointed at the end of last year, he's now gone within months. Catherine McGregor knows this scene inside out. She joins me again. Catherine, lovely to talk to you. What is going on?
And you?
I understand Brad Curry is an experienced crime investigator.
He is, and it was a very good get by Andrew Green at the ABC. No one else seems to be running with this, but this is a very substantial development that this officer has stepped aside. His departure is cloaked in secrecy. I think you will find, Alan, that when this story does see the light of day, as it inevitably will, it will reflect extremely poorly on the judgment of Kershaw, the Commissioner of the AFP. This was a captain's pick. He handpicked a former colleague/mate out of the Northern Territory Police Force, and it now turns out that there was misconduct on the part of this individual during his service in the Northern Territory, which has come to light, and it will reflect exceptionally poorly on Commissioner Kershaw's judgment when the entirety of this matter is divulged, which will imminently be.
Well, of course, the Australian Federal Police won't answer any questions, so to get this right...
it's like talking to Ida Buttrose about the ABC, mate. They should make a federal police commissioner. It's like complaining to them. You get kicked downstairs.
To get this right, these assertions in the Brereton report are the responsibility of the Federal Police Counter Foreign Interference and Special Investigations Command. Now, there's another bureaucracy, just for the benefit of our viewers, the Office of Special Investigator. That was established to examine the quote-unquote evidence within the Brereton report, which recommended 19 soldiers be investigated for the quote-unquote murder of 39 Afghan prisoners and civilians. Catherine,
yes.
With the imminent withdrawal of Western militaries from Afghanistan and the Taliban resurgence, how can these allegations ever be proven?
Well, it's becoming more of a moot point, and I already knew. Look, Alan, the community spanning the Australian intelligence community, the Special Forces community, Australian Border Force, and our entire intelligence apparatus, there's a lot of cross-fertilisation amongst people, and I know people who have been served with notices who continue to perform Commonwealth work, and have sources inside the AFP who are shrugging their shoulders in despair at the investigative task confronting them. They won't be able to go back into Afghanistan. It's too dangerous. And
well, Catherine,
the
on
pity
Monday,
of that is...
one thing that you and I have talked about how do these poor people, 19 soldiers, defend themselves. On this program, I interviewed Peter Dutton and asked him who would fund the defence of our soldiers. This is what he said.
Nobody has been denied the legal support that they've requested, which is, again, a key element to our legal system in this country. Yet, if people have done the wrong thing, if there is evidence that can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of
but who will fund their defence?
Australian court,
who will fund their defence?
We will. The Australian government will, and I've been clear about that as well. If somebody has requested legal support. They'll be provided with that support.
Catherine, what do you make of that?
Well, it's not consistent with my experience, Alan. Without divulging identities, we're representing a couple of these people. Their legal expenses are being met out of the Special Air Service Resources Trust, and it had to change its trust deeds to make funds available because it was initially set up after the Black Hawk incident to fund mental and physical injury, not legal fees. But it's now meeting the legal fees of a couple of individuals, and it's got deep pockets thanks to Twiggy Forrest and Gina Reinhardt. But the LACE scheme is what I believe the Minister may have been alluding to, legal assistance for Commonwealth expenses. But it doesn't pay full-toed odds, especially for senior counsel.
Yep.
And these guys, when they get to court, if they ever get to court, will face a raft of highly funded silks on the Commonwealth teat, and they'll be there with a junior counsel probably appointed by the ADF.
But just on this point, if they ever get to court, now, I've mentioned the circumstances. The military are coming out. The Taliban is resurgent. We're going to close the embassy in Kabul. That won't assist any investigation. And at the end of the day, therefore, if this goes on and on and on, do people to this point against whom there is no evidence that's been tested, what happens to them? Do they just swing? Are their families abandoned? They don't have a job. They've lost everything. What happens to these people?
Absolutely, and I'm living with this problem day to day. I'm meeting them, I'm talking to them. The state of uncertainty has the potential to kill them if they weren't such resilient, outstanding Australians. They're isolated from their mates and they feel abandoned. Now, Alan, the AFP will not go back. And I'll tell you, the obstacles confronting collection of evidence. Most of the Afghan partner forces who were with our troops are dead. Many of them were killed in the big offensive by the Taliban. The Taliban now effectively run most of the country, and it is prudent for our embassy to be withdrawn. I would love the AFP to walk a mile in the shoes of the men they're investigating and see when an individual clothed in a blanket running at you, reaching inside the blanket, they won't be getting an application form to become a male champion of change. Let me give you the tip. And you decide whether you're going to drop the bloke or let him come to within 5 metres of you. That's the decision these guys made in the heat of battle in the cases that I'm seeing. I'd like the cops to go up there and experience the ground reality. See if they can tell a Hazara from a Pashtun. So ask someone whether they're Taliban, and when they reach inside their jacket, I'll tell you what, they won't be reaching for their donation to the Rosie Batty Trust.
Good on you. Brilliant stuff, Catherine. Brilliant stuff. We'll leave it there. We'll talk next week. But, gee, that's outstanding. You see, where the hell are these men? Have lost their jobs, lost their income, lost their pride, lost their self-esteem. Some have lost their families, and now they just swing until all this is resolved. Someone ought to tell some of these people it was a war. The troops were sent there to murder the enemy. The Brereton report should be binned, and we should seek one goal only: rebuilding the morale of our defence forces. Catherine McGregor, outstanding.